Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing us another Fantasy Football video. And this one, I'm going to go over 5 players that I've been looking to sell high on ahead of Week 7. These are, of course, not players that I think you have to move on from, but they're guys that I think have a little bit more risk associated with them going forward, or are guys that I don't necessarily think are going to produce the level of the guys that you can trade them for, right? So, again, these are not players you have to just give away for free. Don't just expend these guys from your team. They're still good players. They're still worth having on your roster, but I think if you can capitalize on the current value in the market right now, it'll be valuable for you. I also put out a video going over players that I would look to trade for this week. So if you haven't seen that one also came out today. I highly recommend you guys give that one a look. Of course, as always, if you have any specific questions, just let me know in the comments below. Love interacting with you guys there, and hopefully you guys find this useful. Let's get into it, guys. I'll start things off with potentially the most obvious one of the week, but it's going to be Rico Dowdle. It's been a really fun 2 weeks for Dowdle, and I think Dowdle's proven to us in the NFL that he's a good player and he belongs as like a low-end starting running back in the NFL, but he's by no means a superstar. He's not a fantastic player. He's just been really great for the last 2 weeks, and it was just sort of the perfect storm for that to happen. He's had back-to-back basically perfect matchups. Like, you can't really ask for better matchups than the Bengals or than the Dolphins and the Cowboys. The Bengals would be maybe the one other one you could throw in there, but 2 straight perfect matchups without Chuba, right? So you had a guy getting all of the work in an offense that was playing some of the worst run defenses in the NFL. And Rico, don't want to take anything away from him. He certainly capitalized on it. He had a fantastic 2 weeks. He looked really good, and he's potentially going to be the starter there in Carolina going forward. The problem is that Carolina has the second worst strength of schedule for the running back position the rest of the season, so these matchups are just not going to continue. On top of that, Chuba's going to return potentially as soon as this week, so you're looking at Rico finding himself, best case scenario, getting 60% of the snaps in an offense that's not very good with no longer really any special matchups coming up. So I think if you can get like a legit running back 2 for him the rest of the way, he's just a guy that, I think you could use as like a flex going forward, but if you need someone that you want to be more confident in the rest of the way, I think I'd be more than happy to trade Dowdle and just capitalize on what he's done for the last 2 weeks, because it's probably the end of the line here. Next up, we got Kyren Williams. The big thing here with Kyren is just that he's got far and away the worst playoff schedule of any running back left in the NFL. The playoff matchups are Detroit, Seattle, and Atlanta. Basically 3 pass funnel defenses, teams with really good defensive lines, and potentially questionable secondaries. We've seen week after week that teams just can't run on these teams, and it makes it really tough to really trust a guy like Kyren as a guy. If you have Kyren, he's supposed to be your running back 1. He's supposed to be a superstar for you, and having any sort of question mark surrounding that level of a player makes me a little bit nervous. I do think Kyren's going to be good the rest of the season, but if you're 5-0 or 5-1, 6-0, you're really sure that you're going to be making the playoffs. It's time to start looking at what those playoff schedules are going to be and see if there are guys like Kyren that you don't necessarily think are going to be the reason you make that push from weeks 15 on. So I'm going to love the pass catchers in those matchups, like Detroit, Seattle, and Atlanta. Those could all 3 be really high-scoring games, but I think it's going to be really tough for the Rams to run without against those teams, and it's going to make me a little bit worried about Kyren on weeks where he doesn't score a touchdown. He does seem to do that just about every single week, but I don't want my running backs to need to score a touchdown to be valuable. There are a lot of running backs like that, and those are a lot easier to find, and I think you can get like a legitimate top 10 caliber player for Kyren right now. If you can actually just go get equal value for someone with a better playoff matchup, it's something I would want to consider. Again, you don't have to trade him now. If you want to hold him for a few more weeks, get some more good games out of him, and then trade him when you get to the playoffs, you could do that as well. But just keep it in the back of your mind that playoff schedule is going to be really, really brutal for Kyren, and don't expect him to be the reason you win your league if you get to the playoffs with him. Next up, we've got Jameson Williams. Somehow was like the only Lion to have a legitimately good game this last week, and we just know what he is at this point in his career. He's going to be a boomer bust flex play, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a nice kind of player to have on your roster, but that means that with a player like this, really similar to like Gabe Davis a couple years ago, where it was like once every 3 weeks he'd go off for 100 yards and a touchdown, and then he'd fall back to being basically a nothing burger for those next couple of weeks. Like, they would give him a lot of buy low and sell high opportunities, and Jameson Williams is sort of that kind of player, but off of a really good week, I think it's a good week to at least consider trading him. I just don't think Jameson's a guy that you want to be playing every single week. If things are going well for the Lions, which they should be more often than not, right? The Lions are a really good team. They're going to win a lot of games the rest of the season. They don't really involve Jameson Williams because when things are working for them, they're running the ball, they're throwing the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're using Sam Laporta in the red zone. Isaac Tesla is just like sort of annoyingly involved in the red zone because I like Tesla, don't get me wrong, but it just takes away from the fantasy value of all these other players. So With Jameson, you basically need a big play for him to come through in every single week. I don't want to rely on that kind of player. Like, there are a lot of players like that. Like, Tyquan Thornton was that way for the first 5 weeks of the season. There are plenty of players you can find that could just catch a long touchdown and otherwise be bad. So if you can get a legitimately reliable asset for Jameson, I would definitely look to do that because I don't think he's somebody that I want to use every single week. I want to play matchups with him, but even then it's tough because if you're playing a good matchup, it means it's probably a bad defense, and against a bad defense, the Lions are probably just going to win and then not need to use him. So it's just really tough to predict the good games for Williams, and I think he's just a lot better of an asset in best ball than he is in like a general redraft league. This one's hard for me, but Devon Achane is someone I wanted to highlight. You don't have to move him by any means, and I don't have him in one of my leagues. He's my number one running back in my home league, so I'm invested in him. I'm using him quite a bit, but I'm worried about what the Dolphins are just going to look like by the end of the season. They're sitting at 1-5 now. There's a good chance we see a coaching change at some point. I don't necessarily think it's the right thing to do. I do think Mike McDaniel, at a very minimum, is doing a good job on offense. I don't think he has a lot to work with a limited quarterback and Tua. Just like two playmakers and no offensive line. Like, it's tough. I think McDaniel's got a really tough job, and his defense is horrendous. And typically, if I'm evaluating a head coach, I want to evaluate first how their side of the ball is doing. So McDaniel's is an offensive head coach. The offense is doing good. So I don't necessarily want to pin all the blame on him there, but that's not my call, right? I think we're going to see the Dolphins potentially move on from McDaniel's during the season, and if we see that happen, if we see a change in philosophy on offense, like a big part of Devon Achane's value on a weekly basis is just that they manufacture so many touches for him in the screen game. If we see a coaching change and a new offensive play caller, that could easily go away. And when you just lose those manufactured touches, it's really tough to look at Achane as a guy who's going to be fantastic because, again, I don't see a world where this offense gets better by them moving on from McDaniel. Tua's been horrendous. Just the vibes in that locker room are not good. And on top of that, you've got the second and the worst matchup for running backs over the next 2 weeks. You could have a couple more bad weeks. Dolphins fall to 1-7, and then they maybe move on from McDaniels, and they're, who knows what the offense is going to look like. So if you could just move him for like a lateral kind of asset, like I would trade him straight up for Josh Jacobs, for Jahmyr Gibbs. If you need to move for a receiver, I would trade him for Amon-Ra. Like, if you can get that kind of player, I think it makes a lot of sense to do it just because you can get out of a little bit of risk there. So again, you don't have to move him. Don't sell low. Don't panic on it. But if you can just get out of some of that risk for the same caliber of player, I would consider doing that this week. And the last player we'll talk about is also a player I talked about last week, but got to mention him one more time. Travis Kelce is a perfect sell high. Rashee Rice is back, right? He served a 6-game suspension, and that means that Travis Kelce is no longer really necessary to this offense. He's got the second worst strength of schedule for tight ends the entire rest of the season as well, so it's just going to be tough to look at Kelce as a guy that you want to be playing on a weekly basis going forward. Still doesn't look great either. He's been okay for fantasy. Actually hasn't been all that bad, but he just doesn't look like the Kelce of old. Top of that, we see it all the time with these older players. The best they get over the course of the season is right at the start of the year because they've got a fresh body. They're ready to go. I think we're seeing that with Keenan Allen right now, just not really as involved in week 6 already. Like, things are going to get worse for these guys over the course of the season in general. And right now, Travis Kelce looked like a very valuable fantasy asset. I think he's playing well. This Chiefs offense is playing phenomenal right now, so people are going to want pieces of that, especially because none of it's coming from the backfield, right? So it is all on the back of Mahomes in this passing game. So people are going to want pieces of this passing attack. I am not interested in Kelce at all. I don't think he's going to be a difference maker the rest of the way. I think he's basically a streaming caliber tight end, and there's plenty of those. So if you can get a weekly starter for Kelce, it's just now's the best time to do it. So that'll do it for the players that I'd be looking to sell high on this week. Up next, I'll get into starts and sits where I will go over every single matchup this week, go through every single fantasy relevant player, and do what I can to help you guys get your lineup set this week. So stay tuned for that video. The first one will come out tomorrow morning, Thursday morning. That way we can get you all set and ready to go for Thursday Night Football, and then we'll get you kicked off for the rest of the week. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that video or any other videos I put out 5 videos every single week, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Click the notification bell so you get notifications as new videos come out. And then, of course, with any questions or comments, any trade questions, start sit questions, let me know in the comments below. I love interacting with you guys there. It's part of what makes this so fun for me, and it's pretty much why I do this. So really appreciate you guys. If you made it this far in the video, give it a thumbs up. That helps me out quite a bit, and I will catch you guys with the next one. Peace, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter @RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.